Hello. So, welcome to this week's episode of Club 5 the podcast with me, Kate Sterling. The reason there was a hesitation there is that I'm trying something. Whoops, that was my phone clicking in. Trying something entirely new today, and this could just go horribly tits up, and we'll just see what happens. Pardon and excuse me, and sorry in advance for any random swear words that do come across in this podcast. Sometimes I do slip up a little bit, but hopefully not. I try to keep it clean as possible. But basically, I am, like I said, trying to. Did I even say it? I don't even know. My brain is so scrambled from trying to get all the tech set up. I'm trying to stream this live to YouTube as a bit of a test. And already in the stumbling blocks of getting everything sorted out, I couldn't set it up on the new Club Thrive channel that I've set up. So I'm streaming it to my old company's YouTube. I'm also recording this on my laptop. Hopefully, I'm recording the audio. Hopefully, and then hopefully it's all going to come together and actually be a massively valuable podcast episode. And the last 1 minute and 19 seconds of detail actually were not relevant whatsoever. So anyway, how are you? Thank you for being here, whether you're listening or watching. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to get the word out about Club Thrive, and I'm trying to get the word out about the work that I'm doing here to help you feel empowered and confident in yourselves, so that you can go out there and stop surviving and start thriving and really be your best selves. And not in a way of like you need to go to Bali and live, in the pool. That would be great too. But also just so that every day you wake up, you have that confidence and that presence and that sense of calm and grounding in yourself, so that you can show up both personally and professionally in all aspects of your life with the best possible energy that you can, so that you are yourself essentially. Because I don't know about you, but for a lot of my life I think I have pretended to be someone else, and not in a really vindictive way, or is that the right word, not in a horrible way, but I think we really, again, I'm not trying to exclude anyone here, but we really end up trying to fit a certain look, or we try to end up, fitting a certain type of person, or we feel like we don't fit in, and in trying to fit in, we end up not being the people that we are, or not being the women that we are. And all the people, whatever your gender is, if you're listening right now and you don't identify as a woman, welcome. You are welcome here. I just talk about, this podcast being, or the work that I do, for women, because I identify as a woman. And so I like the things I talk about are things that I have experienced from my experience of life. And I think this is where things are challenging now, just because we can talk about our own specific genders, whether however you identify. We have our own experiences, but really we're all so connected and so linked with the insecurities that we have, whatever your gender, with the challenges that you face. Yes, there's different discriminations that happen there. I'm not going to be naive. There are still aspects of our society that are that do discriminate. That's a fact. Unfortunately, and we can only do our best to then try and be as inclusive as possible, so that people do feel like they have a place in this world. And I think part of the challenge that we experience when we are not comfortable in ourselves is that it's because we don't feel like we have a place in the world, and it's because we haven't accepted ourselves. So we're trying to be like everyone else, but in trying to be like everyone else, we don't be ourselves, which means that we go around in circles and are unhappy and make choices that ironically feel good in the moment, but make us more unhappy. And so this is why today's episode is all about overcoming self-conscious in the moments that matter. Now, those moments are unique to you. And so from the background of this podcast, and I have to say it's very weird now doing this podcast, not just kind of into a microphone, but also with quite a bright light in my face and a camera screen and my computer that sounds like it's whirring a little bit too much. So that I just had to acknowledge that. And I think this is a great example of how it's not very well, it is translatable in terms of, imagine that what I just described was like an emotion, and this camera setup with the lighting and the microphone and all the equipment that I'm using, it's very much there. Like I can literally see it all. I can hear it, and it's hot, so I feel it as well. And I think this is a great analogy, but this is like our emotions, and our emotions are a part of us and we experience them every single day. And if you're very sensitive like I am, it's been quite a journey to learn how to handle my emotions, and I wish we were taught it at school. How to kind of acknowledge them, how to accept them, how to deal with them, how to not be overwhelmed by them, but also how to not deny them. Like, I literally cannot deny that there is not a camera in my face, there's not a light here, there's not a microphone. These things are all here. I've got a whirring laptop and it's hot in my room and I don't know why I'm wearing this jacket. My hair's frizzy and I just, everything is fine. It's great, but it's all there. And our emotions are the same. And so when our emotions start to take over, I could be very distracted right now by all this equipment. And what I need to try and focus on right now is providing the best content possible for this podcast. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want you to think, this is a great episode. I'm going to go share it with my mates. I'm going to go and give her a review. I'm going to go and like it. I'm going to, decide I'm going to tune in next week because it was so valuable. But at the same time, I'm balancing the fact there's a camera in my face, there's a light, I'm hot, my hair's frizzy, there's a microphone there too, and I'm hoping that everything is, like, in the back of my mind, all I can think of is, like, I really hope to God that this is, I'm not even religious, but I don't know why I said that, but I really hope that this all streams, I hope that it all records, I hope the quality is great, and I hope it just goes well. And so we always have all of these things going on at the same time. It's never that you're just there. You're not ever not feeling something or not thinking something or not experiencing something. And this is where I guess kind of Buddhist monks maybe have nailed it, because they're able to kind of, it seems, to allow these things to come in and to go, and that's why meditation is so valuable. It's why yoga is so valuable. It's why learning to, or getting to know yourself better, is so valuable, because what happens over time is that actually these things just become things that are there and you're conscious of them, but you can still stay focused on you. And the reason I use that very strange analogy, I do like to bring in a bit of a metaphor into these podcasts, is that really this is very linked to how you feel in yourself, with the emotions that you have, with your self-belief, with your confidence, with your presence that follows, and then the self-consciousness perhaps when maybe all of those emotions are taking over, when all of those thoughts are taking over, when you can't focus on being yourself because you've got this back chat going on in your head about how you could be better, or you've kind of seen a reflection and you've decided that you're fat and ugly and you've got no place in the world. And now what I want to say as well is that for the last couple of years, I've really tried to balance all the information that I have learned as a personal trainer in my personal life over the last 2 decades, really, 1 or 2 decades, when it comes to bodies. And it is so important to say that we have basically used certain words to demonize or to with negative connotations, when actually they're just a fact of life. And we've added morality to it as well. So, for example, when I said that about, kind of looking in the mirror or feeling like a certain thing, our bodies have fat in them. Like, we need fat to function. Women especially need it for our hormones to be regulated and to work properly. And when we don't have enough body fat on us, we lose our periods, or we actually, you can lose your hair, or you aren't functioning well, and your body can start to use up muscle and all sorts of things to keep you going. And for me personally, and the reason I'm so awkward about talking about all this is that I have a lot that I kind of have tried to balance with talking about it, so that it never offends anyone. But at the end of the day, when I was 16 and I became anorexic, it was because I felt like I didn't fit in, and I felt like I thought I was fat. I thought I was horrible. I thought I was ugly. And it's because in our society, women were portrayed at that time to, and I think it's still the same now really, you need to look a certain way, your nose needs to look a certain way, your eyebrows need to look a certain way, you need to not have wrinkles, you need to also not have cellulite, you need to, have a slim waist and a pert bum, and all these things. And anatomically, sometimes it's actually impossible to get to that point with your body. I've mentioned this a couple of times in the episodes, but when I was at the very lowest weight that I was, I was like, it doesn't matter about the weight, but I was 37 kilograms, I was 6 stone, it was basically skin and bone. I still didn't like myself. And at the end of the day, you can spend as much of your life trying to look a certain way, or trying to diet yourself into whatever perfect shape you perceive is necessary to have a good life. But until you start accepting yourself, and until you start facing up to all these things, like the camera and the light and the microphone and everything that's kind of existing within your world, you'll never actually well, this is a sweeping statement, but I don't believe you'll ever be truly satisfied. And I'll always believe that you'll, kind of from experience really, that you'll be chasing something that isn't always attainable. And this is where it all gets a bit complicated, because as a personal trainer, I would always try and balance it, because exercise is way more than just losing weight all the time. It's about feeling good and feeling strong and feeling energized and having that confidence to walk out of the house with that presence. But when you don't have that inner connection to yourself, it becomes very much about appearance. And what I am not saying is there is anything wrong with wanting to look a certain way. I would be lying if I didn't say, or if I said that I don't train or don't exercise because I don't like how it can also change my body. I personally really like to feel strong. I like an aesthetic where you can, like, I like feeling like I have muscle. I quite like seeing muscles in the mirror. That sounds so weird to say. And one of the things that over the last couple of years I've realised is that we are in this very tricky place where if you aren't happy with your body, you're meant to accept it, which is true. But if you look a certain way, say you have gained weight because your lifestyle has made you unhappy, hang on, annoyingly, bear with me 1 second, my which is never useful, so I'm actually not sure how much of this. Okay, hang on. Bear with me 1 second if you're listening live. I'm just going to see where it left off. Look a certain way. Say you have. See, technology. Weight because your lifestyle has been you get. Okay, yeah, right. So hopefully this is going to work now. And if the sound dropped out over there on YouTube, thank you for still listening. That's very annoying that it did that. Right, here we go. Let's try this again. Right, apologies, we had a mic drop out there, but we're back hopefully. So if your body has changed because, and apologies if I just repeat a bit here just to get my train of thought back on, but if you have gained weight because you, for example, have been unhappy and you've been comfort eating, it's a challenging messaging out there right now. It's a bit conflicting because you've got half of the movement of the kind of body acceptance, body positivity movement saying like you should accept your body at any size, which I believe is true. You absolutely should. But what if you're not happy in that body and it's because you've made choices that, or have been kind of forced into making choices to comfort yourself with food, and you don't want that weight anymore and you want to lose it? And then there's this kind of, well, I don't feel like I'm allowed to lose it. I don't feel I'm allowed to say I want to lose it because I'm also told that I should accept my body. And this was a challenge that I had within my own personal world as a coach, to try and ensure that I wasn't pushing out content that made people feel like they had to lose weight to be accepted, but that it was balanced with a message of, but if you want to, then that is also fine. Body acceptance is absolutely, in my belief, at the foundation of lifelong change. Accepting my body has been the foundations of everything else in my life. Because when you are not accepting in your body and when you're not comfortable in your body, that level of self-consciousness becomes so uncomfortable and unbearable that it's almost as though you can't bear it. And so we comfort with food or exercise or even alcohol. And it's kind of, self-consciousness in itself is a thing. But it is also, I think, probably linked to other lifestyle choices and factors that either feed into it or that kind of are spurred on by it. So, for example, and I'm going to use comfort eating because it's the one thing that I have spent years overcoming, in line with also a restriction cycle with food. And the reason I'm going to start talking about this more now is that I think it's really important to talk about it, because especially if you're in the creative industries or if you have a career where you feel like you have eyes on you, there is a pressure that you might feel to look a certain way. You might feel like you have to look perfect. You might feel whatever that is to you. I used to walk into supermarkets and see people with their legs out in the summer and think, God, her legs are amazing. I want her legs. And then you'd kind of pick, there might be someone else down the way and be like, oh my God, but her arms, look at her arms. They're amazing. And what ends up happening is that whether you realise it or not, you're kind of going around a supermarket or a shop or any kind of in your day-to-day, picking out the bits that you recognise as like good or perfect or accepted in inverted commas based on the imagery and the messaging that we've had given to us through films or celebrity or with you know, I don't know, magazines, even social media, everything that we see, we're getting messages all the time about what we should or shouldn't look like or how we should or shouldn't be. And we absorb all that messaging so that when you're then out and about, all you see is all the things that connect to the good stuff in inverted commas. And what you don't see is the kind of the other bits. And so what you start to focus on are the other bits that you don't have. And then that becomes almost like an obsession. And there were times in my life where it would take me 3 or 4 hours to get changed to leave the house because I felt so self-conscious. I felt so uncomfortable in my body. I felt so unhappy. And I felt just like such an outcast because I would then try and leave the house and would feel self-conscious and literally as if people were looking at me as soon as I left the front door, which of course, really, that doesn't happen. Everyone else is way too worried about themselves to even think about looking at what you look like. But that doesn't matter because in that moment it's so massive, that feeling of awareness of how you are and not feeling how you want to feel but how you can't feel, it seems, just consumes you. And so I understand, and what I want to give you in this episode today are some things that you can try if that happens to you. And, you know, the impact of self-consciousness, like I said, can also feed into this whole connection with body and your body image and how you feel about yourself and how you put yourself out there. And ultimately, if you're self-conscious, you will walk into a room with self-consciousness. And it is the thing that depletes presence, it depletes confidence, it depletes self-belief. Because it all strings into this one big narrative that you're not enough and that your body is the thing that's holding you back. And actually, it's not true. And this is where this decision in how you, the person that you are, not what the social media says, not what, this is, I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but not at what a health at every size kind of says, not at what the thinnest person online says, but what makes you happy and who makes you the perfect person that you can be with all your imperfections, because none of us are perfect. And I think it's really important, especially if you've been through a big change physically, if you've had an injury or illness, or perhaps you've become a mum, and you've got all this messaging around you that's saying, hey, you've been through all of these things and you should accept your body where you are. You should be really happy in your body. It's really hard if you're not happy, because then you feel bad about saying, but I'm not happy in my body. Ultimately, it's a balance, I think. My belief is that you absolutely are allowed to say, I'm not happy in my body. But what you must also do is say, but this is where I am right now, and I'm going to be as compassionate and kind to myself as I can. And I'm also going to be aware that what I want at the, might not be achievable. I might not be able to look like X, Y, and Z because you might have time constraints, you might have injuries, you might have not enough time to, or the not enough time or not enough knowledge to know how to eat to support your goals, or you might not have the equipment to train, or you've got stuff going on that other people don't have, that you have been told this is what you should look like. Your life is going to be very different to mine as a personal trainer or a coach who basically has spent their whole life training. It's part of my DNA pretty much. I'm programmed to do it. I'm programmed to train. I know what I'm doing. I've got that knowledge, I've got that experience, and it's a part of my body. So for me, that motivation is going to be different to your motivation, where you've got lots of other things that you're juggling. Unless, of course, you're also a coach. And I think, body image and challenge and feeling challenged in your body and self-consciousness runs rampant in fitness as well. And basically, we're all the same. We just don't talk about it because it's a bit clunky. And it's also really annoying if you're working with someone who always just talks about their body, or always just talks about being on a diet, or always just kind of makes you feel bad about what you're eating. Because at the end of the day as well, this is not about there being a right or a wrong or a good or bad. We're not going to attach morality to food, to choices, to lifestyle. This is another big thing that I've learned as well, is that you're never perfect, like I said before, but that if we attach morality to even things like having a glass of wine in a pub by yourself, it becomes shameful and it becomes guilt-ridden and it becomes something you can't do. And then when you have those emotions and those things coming in, it's all of a sudden like, it's like, oh my God, well, I've had that glass of wine in the pub by myself. That was a really nice thing. It's the only glass of wine I've had all week. But actually, now I feel really bad about myself because I shouldn't do that because society says that's really bad. Or someone else in your life has told you that's really bad, or you think it's really bad. And then you judge yourself. And then you go home and rather than just having a cup of peppermint tea and go to bed, you buy another bottle of wine and have it at home because it numbs the emotions. Or maybe it's food. You know, maybe you've been really restricting yourself to try and look a certain way, and you have one piece of food that you don't think is good, and it's generally always like, you know, nice food. So I don't know why I always use a donut. I don't even really like donuts, but you've had a donut and you're like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. And rather than going home to being like, I had a donut, you go home and you buy another pack of donuts and you eat all the donuts and then you feel even more shit. And like, I'm not saying this from judgment. I'm saying this from as someone that's kind of been there. You know, whether it is with, challenges with knowing, with like judging other people for how much they drink, or being challenged by it, or kind of really kind of not acknowledging that I myself perhaps have used alcohol as a crux, and that I have definitely used food as a crux, and I've definitely been unhappy, and it's given me all sorts of digestive issues when I've been comfort eating late at night, and it all links into this discomfort that we have in ourselves with not being able to accept ourselves and feeling self-conscious because we don't think we're right. And if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, by the way, go see it. It's great, and it kind of opens up this discussion as well about stereotypes and trying to fit into certain stereotypes. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what you want. You get to decide that, and then you get to decide what you want to do and how much you're prepared to do to get what you want. If you are trying to get somewhere that is literally not possible, you're setting yourself up for failure every single time. It's like if you avoid eating all day long just to try and look a certain way, you're probably not going to succeed with that, because you're going to get hungry at some point, and then you're going to start eating, and then you're going to realize how hungry you are, and then you're going to just not be able to stop. And then you're going to feel bad, and then the shame and the guilt comes in, and it's the cycle. And this links to self-consciousness, because then you start to feel self-conscious because your body changes, because maybe you put on weight or maybe you lose weight. And the challenge comes as well because in society, if you lose weight, generally you are complimented. That then becomes the narrative, I've done well. And this is why we have to separate ourselves from right or wrong, good or bad, society versus our own needs and your own needs and who you need to be in order to thrive. So that if you get the compliment, great, you can say, fab, someone said something really nice about me. But also you can say, but that's just like something that they've said. That's their opinion. And also, I feel great in myself whether they say it or not. Because otherwise what happens when you don't get that compliment, you don't feel good in yourself. And what needs to happen is that whether you see that person or when you see that person, they give you a compliment or not, you feel the same. Because you have built such a strong level of self-belief in yourself that inner cheerleader is like clapping you on and cheering you on, that when you don't get the compliments or you don't get the validation or you don't get the attention, you also feel valid. And I really struggled, this is an episode for another day, which I do all the time, is that validation and the word of praise from other people. And it might be that you give more value to the word of praise from the gender of individual that you were attracted to, regardless of your kind of what's the right term, sexuality. You will probably give more value to the type of person that you are attracted to than someone from your same kind of gender. I don't know, but I could be wrong with that, but I think I'm probably right. So the impact of self-consciousness is, we have that pressure to look a certain way. And when we don't look like the right way, inverted commas, then we feel self-conscious because we don't feel like we fit in. And it's really, like I was saying about the supermarket thing, start to get more conscious of how you perceive other people. And, you will have thoughts that come in as soon as you see someone. It's just natural. You're immediately maybe judging them, or you're thinking something of them. They look really great. I love their hair. I really like their shoes. Why are they wearing that? Whatever it is, then you'll have those thoughts that come in. And then it is your responsibility to decide what you want to do with that thought. And this is a practice. This is not going to happen overnight. This is something that you commit to for the rest of your life. It is not pressing deliver tomorrow with Prime. It is, I commit to this so that I can keep thriving and not surviving, and I can show up in the world with the confidence and the presence and the self-belief that I want, and I'm committing to that every single day. So it's about highlighting that inner narrative with yourself, that inner story that you are telling yourself every single day. And this is where those feelings of low self-worth and self-deprecating thoughts come in. It's because you're telling yourself a story about yourself. You're telling yourself that you're not as valid as that person you saw in the supermarket with the legs out that you thought looked amazing. You have no idea. Your next door neighbour might think you have amazing legs. They might think your life looks fantastic. But you don't know that because they've not told you that. And also you don't believe it in yourself because you're comparing yourself to maybe lots of other people around you. I want you to know this is like, I understand, and it's possible to not feel like that. And, you know, I think as well, when you're having those days where the thoughts in your head really start to spiral and you just can't break them, we need this circuit breaker. And this is what I'm going to give you now, is this circuit breaker of how to stop that inner narrative, that inner thought, whether it's you're trying to get changed before a meeting or an audition, or you are about to walk into a room for the first time, whether it's a networking event or rehearsals or onto set for the first time, and you're suddenly starting to doubt yourself, and you're like, imposter syndrome starts to kind of trickle in. You're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I even thinking about wearing that? That's going to draw so much attention to myself. And it's about kind of getting you to that place where you're comfortable and you're able to deal with the days where you don't feel so good. But you're also able to then really embrace the days that you do feel good, and you find this middle ground where you have presence and confidence and self-belief regardless of your inner channel, your inner river, your inner kind of energy. Just like with all this equipment that I've got around me now, I'm trying to focus on the podcast, but I'm conscious that it's there. I'm aware of it. It's the same with your kind of thoughts. Over time, the more you practice this, the thoughts will just be there, and you'll get better at not listening to them, or listening to them and rationalizing with them, or listening to them and saying, no, you're not true today, you're lying. Or listening and being like, yeah, okay, actually, what am I thinking with this color combination? I'm going to try something else. So this is a circuit breaker. So in that moment, so you've been like trying to get changed for hours, and everything is out of the wardrobe onto your bed. You've got all flustered, you've only got 10 minutes to go, and you just need to wear something, and you just don't feel comfortable in anything you're putting on, and you just are looking at yourself in the mirror and you just think like, what is the point? Why am I even bothering? You're going to stop. And whether you literally say the word stop out loud or in your head, you are going to stop. Even just saying that. And this you can use in any situation when your brain is starting to really whir. Stop. And you can say it a couple of times. And then what you're going to do is something that I like to call grounding down. And it means you literally ground down. So you feel the ground underneath your feet, or you feel the chair that you're sitting on. And you let go of that tension, you let go of that stress. And already your breath is starting to slow down. Your nervous system is starting to slow down. Maybe you're leaning against a wall. Maybe you're in a bathroom trying to get yourself ready for an audition or something, and you've kind of walked into that space and there's loads of people around and you think everyone else looks better than you, and why are you even here? You know, the similar thoughts, regardless of your environment, a lot of these situations are repeated. And so we'll take it back to that first example. You've got 10 minutes left and all the clothes are out, and you're just going to stop, and you're going to maybe sit down on the bed or stand up, and you're going to take a couple of breaths. You're going to say stop. You're going to ground down, feel the ground underneath you. Like already, just even thinking about it, I've softened down. You know, I'm kind of chilling out a little bit. And then you're going to decide to take a couple of breaths. So breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And it helps sometimes to breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 6. So make the exhale breath a little bit longer. And you repeat it a couple of times, and already your brain maybe has started to slow down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to replace the thoughts that you're having with something useful. You can use an affirmation, or you can reframe. So you can say, right, you know, I'm okay. I trust myself, I'm okay. I'm just having these thoughts, they're not true. And it can help here as well to question what is true, what is not true. You can remind yourself of everything that your body is for you. And if you're not at a place where you can give self-love, then you find something practical. Oh, I'm lucky I've got this audition. I'm off to meet a friend. I'm looking forward to having coffee with them. My legs carry me. I'm lucky to have my legs. You know, I'm really lucky to I've just had a really good coffee at home. Small, tangible things that you can believe are true. It's not about toxic positivity and pretending that you're okay when you're not. It's absolutely about connecting to something tangible in your life that is good, to give yourself that potential to not feel like shit anymore, to give yourself that potential to say, right, Okay. It brings you back to the present moment. It brings you back to what is true in your life. And then you are going to decide what you want to do next. Maybe it's that you've got a couple of items of clothes that you know make you feel good. Maybe they're slightly looser, maybe they're floatier, maybe they don't, they don't show up your sweat patches. That was one for me. I always used to get I still do. I'm a very sweaty person, get very self-conscious of sweat patches. So if in those moments I'm getting myself really worked up, I might find something that is going to mask any sweat. Say I'm on the way to an audition and I want to feel comfortable. You want to feel comfortable when you walk into the room or wherever it is that you're going. So have a couple of options that you know you will feel comfortable in. You will generally probably already have that. And if not, I recommend getting 1 or 2 items for your wardrobe when you don't feel comfortable. You can also remind yourself that, your body fluctuates. You can look at what you've been through so far. Maybe you have just had a baby and your body looks and feels completely alien to you. Maybe you've had an injury or you're just recovering from a long period of not feeling happy in yourself. You've got these options to give yourself some credit and some self-compassion for where you've been and to where you are right now. And this is where the self-acceptance is important. And in that moment of affirmation or reframing or whatever it is, if you've got a mirror, it's great to repeat it into the mirror. Get comfortable with seeing yourself in a mirror. Really handy, really good for pep talks. And then you have a choice about how you want to move into your day. So you want to perhaps feel calm. You want it to be tangible. You want to walk out of your house confident, knowing that you deserve to walk out of the house feeling confident. And it's about replacing the thoughts that you're having with something that you can use as energy, as action, as motivation, as a choice, as something you can commit to. And then you take that last breath in. And as you exhale, you take that next step. You take that action. You fling off the towel and you put on that dress or that outfit, or you calm your hair down a bit and you give it another dry, or you decide to go lighter on the makeup so you feel fresher and you feel lighter and you feel less sweaty. You decide to walk out of the toilet if it's before an audition with the chin up, knowing that you deserve to be there, knowing that you're just gonna to walk into a networking event. Sorry, my microphone has just gone again. Not sure why this keeps happening. Very annoying. Just in my audio stuff. I think it's still recording on here. Okay, here we go. Very sorry, we had another mic drop out. I'm not sure what's going on with it today. You are making that choice to walk out with how you want to walk out. And it's not about putting pressure into yourself. It's about putting that... sorry, I've now also lost the camera. There we go. Okay, so what we've just done now is we've just had a seamless change into my laptop camera because the battery camera died. This is what happens when you spend an hour trying to get tech stuff going. Oh, the camera's now back. Anyway, we're going to turn the camera off. So sorry for that slightly distracting interruption. And this won't be edited out because I don't edit the podcast. So just know if you also are someone that is doing stuff like this, shit happens. And to not feel self-conscious about it. Right now, I don't feel self-conscious, but that's because for years I've been working on this, and it doesn't make you any less of a person when things go wrong. Maybe it's really good these things are all going wrong, because actually what's happened in these moments is that when you get to a point that things go a little bit wrong, it doesn't throw you as much because you're not putting it on you. This is not it is my fault. I should have charged the battery camera. I'm not sure what's going on with the microphone, but at the end of the day, I'm still just cracking on with it because I know that it's not a reflection on me as a person. And so when you build that deep level of self-belief, and when you build that deep level of trust in yourself, the self-consciousness becomes something that you can manage. It becomes something that when it happens, because it will happen still, I still get self-conscious, I still get those flutter of nerves. It's just that by taking those steps, so by saying stop, or by acknowledging the thoughts, by giving them a bit of space, by grounding down, by sitting down or feeling the ground underneath your feet, by softening the shoulders, by taking those breaths, by finding an affirmation, whether sometimes it is just like a calm down, okay, right, you've got this, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry if your face is going red. Like I'm bright red right now. It doesn't matter. I'm hot. Why am I wearing this jacket? Like those thoughts, calming it down, maybe something a bit funny, to think of. Maybe it is just, looking around you, reminding yourself to take in your surroundings of what is true, breathing, allowing everything to slow down, and replacing any of those negative thoughts with something that's more helpful. So it's all right. I'm here. Those things just went a little bit wrong. Like today, I had a networking event. I went to it. And as I was introducing myself, I introduced the person I'd been talking to as the person that was hosting the event. Slightly embarrassing, but these things happen. And so, in that moment, you can reframe and quickly go, oh, it's all right. Okay, it's fine. We'll just move on. We'll forget about it. And you won't give yourself a hard time. Because when you also repeat in your head everything that hasn't gone right in your day, that brings self-consciousness in. That brings that level of comparing yourself to other people, which makes you feel like you're not as worthy or not as good or don't look a certain way. And all of a sudden you're really slating yourself. And it becomes all very much about our appearance or our qualities or your qualities. And this is why that self-acceptance at whatever size your body is, at whatever you look like, however you feel, is so important, because then whatever you're working towards, you can come back to that place that you accept yourself. And you then have that ability to take a choice. You have that ability to say, I'm going to step into this next moment the best I can with whatever energy it is you choose. Confidence, presence, not really, is it energy? It is an energy, but presence comes from confidence. It is literally like if you have those nerves and you feel self-conscious and you walk into a room with that, it makes everything feel awkward. And then you end up finding that you feel awkward talking to the people that you're talking to. You feel awkward in conversations, and everything just snowballs. And then it's these moments as well that then, like I said, feed into the elements of whether it is comfort eating, comfort drinking, lethargy, thinking that there is no point, deciding that after 4 weeks of trying to get fitter and healthy, you're going to give up because something has made you feel self-conscious. Maybe you've seen your reflection and you don't like what you see yet. And all of a sudden that narrative becomes about, well, what's the point? And I'm not good enough. And none of this is said with judgment. All of this is said from a place of deep understanding, because I have been there. And learning these things and practicing these things at home, in front of the mirror at home, or in those environments when they come up, helps you. Because what happens is that you might get to yourself to a place where you feel so good at home, you feel so ready to leave the flat or your house, whatever. You think, yeah, I'm looking really good today. And you walk out and then you catch your reflection and you see a picture of yourself, and suddenly all those judgmental thoughts come in, and you're spotting everything, you're zooming in and you're highlighting everything that isn't good about yourself. And then all of a sudden that kills that confidence. It brings all that self-consciousness back in, whether it is, maybe it's about a body part. Like for a long time I got very self-conscious about the veins that I have in my head when I smile, or my nose, and it becomes almost like I'm not saying body dysmorphia, because that is a thing in itself, but it becomes an obsession. It becomes like a focus, and then all of a sudden that's all you can think about, and all those other qualities and skills and abilities that you have are suddenly it's like they've just gone into the night. And so by practicing at home, by knowing on the days when you're struggling to get dressed, you spent 10 minutes trying to get dressed already, or 4 hours trying to get dressed, and you've got 10 minutes left. Those moments are setting you up for when you walk out that door to still have the confidence in whatever situation, in the moments that matter, to be your best self. And over time, they get less and they get less and they get less. But you have to stay committed to the reframing and to the breath work and to the grounding down and to the saying stop. And you have to give yourself that permission to say, it is possible that I won't always feel like this. When that pain of staying the same outweighs that pain of change, you are going to make that change. That change, that decision to commit every single day is going to feel worth it, because you don't want to stay how you're feeling right now. And, this is a process that you can use with food as well. Because what happens, like I said, is that when you start to then decide that it's all not worth it, and we start to make the other destructive life choices, the other self-sabotaging life choices, is that you can use the same pattern in those moments when it comes to drink or alcohol or exercise, whatever it is, to also bring that consciousness into your present moment, into yourself, so that you can make choices that actually are beneficial and useful to you. So for example, say that you've had a really bad day, you've got this real level of self-consciousness about you, and you can't handle it, and you decide to go to Tesco's and buy all the donuts and that is going to be the rest of your day. You're going to go buy those donuts. Just before you buy the donuts, you're about to eat them or whatever it is, you say stop, and you ground down, and you take those breaths, and perhaps you have those affirmations of, I'm doing my best here. Is this going to help me, or is this going to take me further away from where I want to be and how I want to feel? Or you take that moment to say, oh, actually, do I really want this? What's going on here? So you actually basically have a discussion with yourself as to what is going on in that moment. What are you feeling? What are you conscious of? What are you not acknowledging? What do you need to acknowledge? Because then you have the choice. Then you have that freedom to choose what you do next. You have that choice to say, I don't want the donuts. You have that choice to say, actually, I'm going to put on that item of clothing that makes me super comfortable. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give myself that credit for even leaving the house today. And then you have that ability to take the action, whether it's walking into that audition room, just saying, yeah, man, I deserve to be here. And I'm just going to give it my best shot. I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to bring my instincts because I know they're great. Or whatever it is, whether it's applying for a new job. Have all of this going on behind the scenes as you're applying for stuff. That belief about yourself, that the messages that you're telling yourself on a daily basis feed into these moments where you don't feel good, where you do feel self-conscious, where you don't feel your best, confident, full of presence and self-belief self. Because everything links together. And it becomes a commitment to you for your life. So that in those moments where you are challenged and you want to stop or you want to hold back, you have that breakthrough moment. You have that decision that says, right, okay, hang on. Let's just sort this out here. And you go through all those steps. You stop, you ground down, you breathe, you use affirmations and reframing, and you decide what choice you make a choice about what you want to do next. And then you take that action on that next breath with commitment to what you want to do. And the thing is that over time, when you're repeating these things every single day, every single moment that it happens, those moments in the bedroom where you're spending 4 hours trying to decide what to wear, and at the end of it, you're sweaty and you're crying and you're deeply unhappy and you're calling yourself all sorts of horrible names, they become less and less and less and less until, just like this equipment here, it's just something that is there. Just like when things go wrong, it just goes wrong, and then you can move on through without it being catastrophic. And like I say, honestly, it takes that time and commitment to yourself, but it will change things. It will impact how you feel. It will impact your choices. All of a sudden, the choices around food will become easier. You'll notice that you don't necessarily actually want that extra glass of wine. You decide to have the peppermint tea. And it's not from a place of restriction. It's from a place of like, oh no, I actually just want to wake up tomorrow feeling better about myself. Because you start to respect yourself more. You start to question what is true in your life, and you start to really pinpoint what matters to you and who you are. You start to get to know yourself better. And then over time, you realise actually you're incredible, and that by repeating these things daily, you build that strong inner voice. You build that strong inner cheerleader. You become that person that you want to be, that you admire. And then you are able in those moments, if you don't get the compliments, to say, I'm still friggin' amazing. And when you are given the compliments, you have that, autonomy to realise that you don't necessarily need them, but they're nice. And then that gives you empowerment and power as well in moments where perhaps, for example, if you've got low self-esteem and you've got someone that is complimenting you all the time, that is like a magnet. And they are going to draw you to them, even if you don't want to go that way. Even if that person isn't good for you. Even if that person is feeling something that is like a slightly warped relationship, because they have that power, because you so need their words, when actually the power comes from within you. You have that power in you. It's about giving yourself that permission to turn it up so that you can go out there and take up that space and be seen and heard and valued just as you are, so that you do have that strength in those moments to say yes to the things you want to say, no to the things that you don't want to say, no to things you don't want to do. And that those moments where you do perhaps feel self-conscious, they're like just a little ripple. They're no longer the tsunami. They just kind of come and go, because they will come and go. There's still going to be days where I'm like, oh my God, what did I do that for? Like in that moment earlier, I was slightly embarrassed that I'd called the person I'd been speaking to the name of the host. You know, in this podcast, a couple of things have gone wrong in here today. I'm going to leave it in. It's okay. Like, things are going to go wrong in our lives sometimes. We're not going to get it right all the time, but we can learn from these things. And I think the big thing with self-consciousness is building that self-respect and that love for yourself. and without it being something that you have to do immediately. You don't go from zero to loving yourself if you're in a place right now where you're challenged, but by day, by slowly challenged in yourself, in your thoughts about yourself, day by day, if you commit to reframing, to affirming what is true about your life and about yourself, to grounding down, to saying stop in those moments, to create that circuit breaker when the moments are kind of taking over, giving yourself that permission to make a choice, to decide how you want to be, and then taking the steps that are going to get you there. So that in the moments that matter, you feel confident and strong, and you have that presence without making it awkward, without making it, this is something that I still work on. Like when I get nervous, I start talking all the time, apart from on the podcast, because, I love the podcast, and I love just this message that I hope I'm giving you, because I understand, but I also know it's possible to not feel like that, and that's what I want for you. I want for you truly to be able to open your wardrobe and say, wow, I woke up today and I wanted to go and buy, I'm just going to use this as an example. I kind of started with one story and I'm going to finish with another. I woke up one day last year and was like, I want to go and buy a pink suit. And I walked into Zara and there was a pink suit there. And I tried it on and I was like, this is friggin' amazing. I am buying this suit. That for me was a massive defining moment, because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years ago, whatever, every year, there is no way I would have walked in and just bought a suit like that. It is so eye-catching. The first time I wore it out the flat, I did feel self-conscious. I had to do this work myself to give myself permission to wear it to the wedding that I wore it to, because it was bright and I was like, this is going to draw attention. But it's being comfortable with that attention, and knowing that if you are given attention, it's not always bad, it's not necessarily good, but it is just a thing. And that within that, you still have that power. And that pink suit for me really signifies a lot. That pink suit signifies all of those moments that I've overcome in feeling self-conscious and saying, yeah, I want to wear these clothes. And it's why now at 38, I'm only just starting to really explore expression with clothing. And so it can become an outlet of self-expression when you feel that confidence in yourself. And sometimes it does, sometimes there are days where it's just like it's a tracksuit day. But when our lives have become the tracksuit moment for our whole moment of time, then it's hard to show up in the moments that matter with that confidence and self-belief, because you've been hiding a lot. I've been hiding a lot. We've all done it. So in practicing in those moments where you are challenged in self-consciousness or kind of with your reflection or whatever it is, you have that ability to overturn it so that you can still build your confidence, and so that you can go out and buy your own equivalent of a pink suit. And I bought that pink suit because I'd also spent months reworking my thinking after having my baby, and like my body felt like an alien and it felt strange, and I'd lost all my strength and it felt really weird. And after my operation, where I was like, my knee doesn't work anymore and what do I do? There were all choices, but it starts with that self-acceptance to be able to move forwards. And I did work. I was proud of my body. I'd got fitter and stronger, and I'd eaten really well, and I felt really good. And there is no shame in that either. There is no shame in fitting in more exercise or eating well. It's become this real challenging dichotomy right now where there's right or wrong, and the only right is what makes you feel the very best. And it comes from a place without restriction, without morality around your choices, around food and exercise and alcohol. Morals are a different thing that will be pertinent to you, and your values will be unique to you as well. But it comes from that place of being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to decide and design my life based on what I want from it. I'm going to take all the goods, the bads, the rights and the wrongs out of my choices, and I'm just going to get what I want and be who I want and live the best version of that life that I can, of my life that I can, of your life that you can. So that you're not surviving anymore. You really are thriving. And it's about giving yourself that permission to kind of almost go off social media and off all the news for a day and be like, what do I actually want? What do I want my body to look like? What do I want my body to feel like? And say that's okay. To say, I've not actually been very happy in this body for a long time. I want to lose some weight and feel fitter and stronger. Great. Or it's like, actually, I'm fine in my body, but I do want to feel fitter and stronger. Fine. Maybe it's like you want to put on weight. It is completely unique to you. And the most important thing is that you really know that it's possible to move away from that aspect of feeling so self-conscious in the moments that matter by doing all of these things. So, thank you so much for your patience in today's episode. And if you've been watching, I don't know if anyone is watching this live on YouTube. The it looks like a zero. It looks like there was one person maybe that viewed at one point. But anyway, hopefully from here on in I'll be able to record this. Half of this did cut out on the camera, but thank you for listening. Please, I am so grateful for your likes and your shares. Even if you just like it, go and rate the podcast, preferably a 5. That'd be great. And also give it a review if you've got time on Apple Podcasts. One line would be amazing. You know, even if it's just say to people, go listen to this podcast, whatever it is, it all makes a difference. It really, really does help spread the word. Come follow me on Instagram. I'm at Club Thrive _ or Kate Sterling 1. Come follow both pages or just choose one. Come follow Club Thrive if that's all you want. All good. And yeah, just know it's possible to not feel like how you feel right now for the rest of your life. And hopefully by continuing to listen to this podcast, you will truly go out there and thrive and break through everything that's holding you back right now, because it is possible. Woo! What an episode! Looking forward to hearing how you found it, and have a great week. And any questions, let me know. And